So please welcome Alex Marcoux to the show. Welcome, Alex.
Well, thank you, Ashley, and thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for expanding my mind. And when I say that not lightly, because our mutual friend Kelly, who connected the two of us, was like, knew that I've been into the telepathy tapes and, you know, here and there listening and, you know, but nothing really opened my mind as much as going down your rabbit hole of the purpose of these autistic souls and the books that you've written. But what I'd love for you to start with, because I feel like how, the way you were raised and how, your life took its little path and got to you until like 2011. Like that's kind of when I feel like this shift came in and the autistic world came into your life. But can you like just maybe go through a little bit of how like you were raised Catholic and all that thing, and then maybe to your out of body experience when you kind of had that spiritual kind of awakening?
Sure. Yeah, I absolutely was raised very Catholic. I My family was deeply seated in the traditions. I had an uncle who was a priest and an aunt who was a nun, and I absolutely, I was Catholic up until gosh, into my 20s, I guess, and very Catholic. But I have to say that when I was young, very young, uh, the things that we were being taught, a lot of things with religion just didn't sit well with me. It didn't resonate to me, and I learned that very young that when things don't resonate as truth, they kind of fall flat. They don't have like a vibration, a sound to me. And when things are true, they kind of ring true. They ring true.
Right.
And so what happened is, as I grew up, there are certain things I was introduced by the church that I felt were true. And when I went through my spiritual awakening in the 90s, what rocked my world was a lot of the things that I was had been taught were not necessarily true. And yes, I did have out of body experience when I was in when I was in my 30s, and that right away told me, boy, there's a lot more that is true than the things that I learned as a child. And so I started exploring some of those things as a child that rang true, but I was told they weren't true. And one of the things, you really want me to get into my out of body experience?
Yeah, that I was going to ask you. Yeah, just I think it's interesting to, especially with my listeners. That's a fascinating story.
Well, okay. So I was in my early 30s, and I was in bed, and I was asleep. At least I thought I was. And I was laying in bed with my partner, and I had this dream. I thought it was a dream where I came out of my body and I hovered on the ceiling in over my bed, and I could look down and I could see myself, and I could see my partner. And I very sarcastically, because I was one of those people that would, um, my eyes would roll when I heard anything woo woo.
Huh.
So I went, oh, yeah, this is one of those out of body experiences. And with that thought, I started hovering away from the bed. I went into what I would call an entry to the bedroom, which was a balcony, and you looked over the balcony into where I could see, the fireplace, the Christmas lights, and then I could see the front door down below. And I just thought to myself, oh, I wonder what would happen if I go over the railing, and, would I, and before I finished the thought, my body automatically responded and floated down to the ceiling and to the entry where the door was. And I looked at the door and I thought, oh, this has to be a dream, but let me go outside, let me and leave the door unlocked, and I'll see if it's unlocked in the morning. And essentially, I went outside. I floated outside after opening the door. I shut the door. I didn't lock it. And I went into the evening. And uh, in the morning, I just woke up abruptly. And my partner said, "What's going on?" And I said, "I just had this weirdest dream. I floated, I explained what had happened." And she didn't say anything. She just got up. She went downstairs. A few minutes later, she came back. She got in bed and put uh, the blanket over her. And I said, what's going on?" And she said, "Well, I just went to the door. It's unlocked." And so at that point, I just went, oh my gosh, there really is something to this metaphysical stuff. There is something beyond um, reality, beyond what I was taught. And so from that out of body experience, I started doing research on these other things that I was told aren't true, things like past lives and uh, aliens and uh, conspiracy theories, uh, all these things that had interest with me. And I had the hit that I was to use writing as a way to fulfill my soul's purpose. I didn't know what that was. So I started writing just general fiction, lesbian fiction, paranormal mysteries. And with each of the books that I was writing, I would explore things that I would think are, I thought was just things of interest that I was told weren't true. And, years later, I've learned, of course, that they are true. And
Right.
yes, that was my journey, spiritual awakening.
But
And
you know, when I think of you telling that story and how that came to you in the 90s, when you look now at that, do you feel like your soul or your spirit, God, source was like that was part of your like blueprint, like you had to have that Catholic upbringing, and then in order for you to get to where you are, go on this journey of truth seeking, which I feel like that's kind of your soul's journey, had that out of like that had to be in your blueprint to say, okay, the only way I'm going to shift my mind to knowing that the truths or these conspiracy theories have been really, there's truth to that. I had to have that experience. Do you see it that way?
oh, absolutely. I think everything it really directs a person where they're going. And I don't have any adverse feelings about my uh, youth and going to the Catholic services, Catholic Church, and some of the rituals. I mean, they're beautiful, And actually, my greatest inspiration when I was in parochial school and I was in the fourth grade, and I had an exchange with a nun who turned around and called me a dumb Marcoux. And, it affected me so much that I pledged to never, I didn't want to embarrass my father's name. And it was like, I would never be called a dumb Marcoux again. So that kind of put me on a certain course. And there's
Mm.
a lot more behind that story, but essentially, yeah, where I follow breadcrumbs.
Yeah, me too.
But,
I love it. I always say breadcrumbs.
yeah, yeah.
So let's go to the breadcrumb in 2011 when you get approached by the mother of her son who is autistic, and she's even on is autistic but functioning to write the book, right?
Right. Well, it was the mother of her daughter.
Oh, mother of her daughter.
Yeah, it was Gail and Lyrica. And yes, they oddly reached out to me and asked me to help them with some marketing of their their book. And that was a breadcrumb because I wasn't in the market for doing that, but I had just been laid off. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so, yeah, I got engaged with their work, and they asked me to, and after I did their book, I assume you've heard the story about their book and how impactful it was.
Yes, but can make sure you talk about it and how when you were in
Okay,
meditation and all that.
me
Even though
too.
I know it, no one else does.
Okay. So, sure. So yes, they reached out to me and they asked me if I would do a trailer. And I said, sure, well, send me their book. And they said, um, you want to read the book? I said, well, yeah, that's the only way I know how to do a book trailer is if I know what your book's about. And so this is back in 2011. And so they sent me the book, and it's this big coffee table book. And so every night I would do some reading in my meditation area in my bedroom. And there's one evening I was in there reading, and I mentioned I had recently been laid off. So what was on my mind was, what am I going to do when I grow up? Um, I need to go back to work, in other words. And so essentially I went in, I'm reading the book, and I said, okay, I'm going to meditate and let me think about what I want to be when I grow up and how am I going to make my income. And about, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes into the meditation, after I had closed myself off from the household, I just heard a crash at my feet, and I looked down, and their book, which had been placed on my bed, had somehow came over and landed right at my feet.
Wow.
So that was to me simply a sign to
Simply.
simply a sign to pay attention to their work. And their work, much of it resonated as truth. I have this thing when somebody says something, if it doesn't resonate as truth, like I said, it's flat. And so I'm reading their book and I'm thinking, this is really good stuff. And it shook my world
Hmm.
because it is good stuff. And it's a part that humanity didn't know, and it's so hidden. And essentially, to, I guess, give you a little summary of it, it's Lyrica was the autistic in of that book, and she was non-speaking, and she communicated through what we call facilitated communication. Lyrica had written this book, and expressing that, the autistics are here with this grand purpose to help humanity during this time of evolutionary shift. And so that to me it rocked my world. And
Hmm.
they pulled me into their lives, and I met a number of other what I call non-speaking autistics who primarily communicated through either facilitated communication or telepathy, channeling, psychic communication. And uh, so, so many years passed. I developed a friendship with these women, Gail and Lyrica. A few other autistics come into the fold. One of them is Daniel, who is a contributor to, I think I have 3 books
Hmm.
that he's assisted with, as well as Connie. And Connie is Daniel's mother, and Connie is also intuitive. And essentially, over the last, gosh, since 2011, I started writing in 2000 and, is it 15? 60. I started writing my first book with them, which was my, I don't know, my fourth or one of my books.
Can't keep them straight. And the unsuspected heroes,
The
right?
yes, the unsuspected heroes. I'm sorry, I have to do this. I'm told because I'm a marketing person, right?
Yes, I think you should.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that,
Yes, we can
but
see it.
okay. So this is the unsuspected heroes. And they came to me and they said, at one point, the three autists came to me and they said, would you write our story? This is communicated through Gail, Lyrica's mom. And I said, no, you have it. You already have your book, right? Telling your story.
Right.
And well, when the universe wants you to do something, the universe will get its way, or um, you will get a 2x4, I guess. Well,
Yep.
I didn't let the 2x4s come. At some point, I said, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Your truth is out of this world. It's absolutely out of this world. And I can't write it as nonfiction, but I can write it as a novel and let it sit with the person and let it hit them where they're at. And if the person is awakening,
Hmm.
they're going to read it and have one experience. And if the person is just think, oh, this is an interesting concept, these autistics are here to save the planet, you know. If they're not awakened, they can have an entirely different experience and it could
Hmm.
be a fun story. So essentially, that's what I had agreed to do. I would agree to write the unsuspected heroes and tell their tale.
Right. When they gave you that book, what was like the one thing where you go like opened your eyes so big, like, wow, this is really what's going on right now. Like this is where we're going.
In that book,
But
or when I,
when you first learned, when they asked you to read the book before you wrote the trailer,
oh,
what was one of your like your head exploding emojis?
well, I think it had to do with it was a lot of the information regarding, I guess, the way they're communicating. Okay, so most people think, when they look at an autistic, these are these are not necessarily what we would call those with Asperger's. They would be what many would call low functioning autist. They can't speak. Many of them have physical challenges. And so my biggest aha was, my gosh, these are angels that are
Hmm.
here and they're here to help humanity, and humanity has no idea. And I had been writing spirituality books. I had been writing visionary fiction. So to me, to spin the unsuspected heroes was not it was not that much of a not that much of a challenge, but it took many years trying to get the information from the artists. But and that's another story, because the autist that I speak with, I don't necessarily speak with them. I'm not very telepathic.
Hmm.
So to get the information at first was very, very long and time consuming. And what I mean is, what I would do is I'd read a book, I'd get the questions, I'd send the questions to the parent. The parent would, speak the questions to the child. The child, Daniel, for the most part, is, he's a man. He was at the time, I think he might have been 18. But and then by the time I was writing, he was older. But that process was very, very slow. And shortly after, about a year after I started writing The Unsuspected Heroes, I encountered a friend. I was on a trip to Peru. I ran into this woman. Her name is Shauna Kalicki. And Shauna is also a contributor on 3 of my books. and she is a channel. And what I realized, we were on a hike together back in 2016, and we're hiking up a canyon. And I had been having conversations with another artist named Layla. And at the same time, I'm reading a book, one of the books on, um, I can't remember the book I was reading, um, The Law of One. I was reading the book on the Law of One,
Yes.
and I had a lot of questions. And so we're walking down the canyon, Shauna and I, and she goes, Layla's here. And I'm like, well, I don't see her. And she goes, oh, no, no, she's here. She's talking to me. And so at this point, Shauna's starting to talk to the autists, and they're talking to her. And that was huge for my work.
Right.
And I said, really? Okay. Well, will she, would she be willing to answer questions about the Law of One material? And so Layla says, yes. So we go through this process, nice chat all the way home. And, Shauna leaves, and I get on my computer that night and I email Layla's mom. And I said, hey, I explained our situation in the canyon, how Shauna was communicating with uh, Layla. Could she please verify that is the case? And so the next day, the mom goes to Layla and says, hey, Layla, do you know who emailed me yesterday? And she said, I spoke to Shauna in the canyon and she understood me.
Wow. And that's
Yeah.
coming through. She's not speaking it, she's doing it another way.
Yeah, she is communicating with her mom through typing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
so it was like, oh, well, it was kind of like the first time Shauna was communicating that way. So I wanted to check. Um, and similarly with, may I share information on my other two books?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so after The Unsuspected Heroes, before I could even market it, I had this hit. I had to do a book, but it had to be nonfiction, and it had to be on what the new earth is today and what the autistics are doing related to the new earth. It's the autistics' role in the new earth. And that book is called Destination New Earth. And that book came out like shortly after. And in that book, again, it was nonfiction. It was important to me to get their messages, uh, not to be the person out there waving the flag saying, hey, the autistics are really, smart. They communicate through telepathy. They're higher dimensional beings having this amazing experience on our behalf. They're here
Right.
to help us, rather than touting about them. I wanted to get the words that they had to share.
Hmm.
So I understand there are people like Kai Dickens, as well as other people that are out there, and they're talking about the beauty and the awe and the wonder of these souls. And that's a beautiful thing. What I have tried to do is capture what they are telling me about this thing called, what we call the awakening, the consciousness shift, this planetary evolution that we're going through right now. And so yes, so that was my second book, and the fairly recent book was God's in the Game. And God's in the Game also is a book, a collaboration between myself and this woman named Shauna, who is the individual who has spoken with these autistics. as well as channels messages from the masters and, the Mother Mary, Yeshua, um, and Mary Magdalene and so on. But more importantly, and also Syrian. Syrian is a collective consciousness from a higher dimension that speaks through one voice. Similar in scope to the work that was done from the Law of One.
Hmm,
Yeah. So,
interesting.
yeah. So, essentially, so my work is really about, capturing their messages and putting them in a way that people can understand why they're here and the
Right.
work that they're doing.
Will you, so when I am learning from you, so will you go through I want to say the history of them, like coming from Lemuria, explaining like 30% of their, they're in the body, but most of they're in all these dimensions. They exist with beyond the other, beyond this three-dimensional. Could you kind of go into that to explain?
Sure. So humanity, we're here and we're in the physical, right? And, we're spiritual beings, but we are having a physical experience. That's the 3D. Think of it this way. They are spiritual beings and they're very lightly tethered to that physicality, their bodies. So um, while they are in a body, they're really in other dimensions. They're in the dimensions of the angels. If some people might refer to aliens, they're having conversations with galactic beings, the angels, and other autistics. And you hear in the telepathy tapes how they communicate on the hill, and that's a beautiful thing. Daniel is there, they're all there having
Amazing.
this grand experience. But the way I look at it, like Daniel is a warrior to some extent, and there is this thing called the autistic collective, and and these are typically the lower functioning autists, and they are having this experience around the world, and they're connecting and they're doing this work of bringing in the new earth. Uh, they are they're doing the spiritual work to help humanity evolve. And so that's their experience. We experience physicality. They are lightly tied to their physical body. They're out. um, I think of it like as in the movie Doctor Strange,
Hmm.
when you can, they absolutely turn around and they might be in battles. You don't know. We don't understand a lot what's going on with these autists at times.
Right.
And when we look at them, humanity looks at them and they go, oh, they're not home. Uh, they're in a way, they're right. They are not home. They are out of the building. They're doing the work. And it places the parents and the caretakers in great um work. I mean, the work they have
Right.
to go through to keep them safe. And that's what they do. They keep their children safe.
Has Daniel or Layla or anyone that you spoke through a channel mentioned why they chose this time right now to be autistic? Have they been a human in like a healthy, like I don't mean to say they're not healthy, but have they been a regular human with
Oh,
and they've just chosen this time to come back as like chose the parents to like ascend like they're part of this whole ascension of the earth?
yeah, they've had other incarnations, just as both, we have in
Right.
the lifetimes, and they chose to be here to play this role with the collective shift in consciousness. And I don't know if when I'm saying that, I don't, it's that shift from living in a consciousness of fear and angst to one of love, joy, unconditional love. That's the shift we are trying to go through at this point. Um, and but yes, they've had other incarnations as other beings, and they've definitely chose their parents for a reason. Their parents are they are angels also.
Hmm.
Their parents are um, they are caretakers. Absolutely, are angels also.
Right. There's I was listening to, like, it was however many years ago. I mean, in my lifetime, 1 in 5,000 autism. Right now, it's like 1 in 50. What is this? Is it because of this new Earth, like we're ship this expansion? They all are coming in this big loads of of souls to do this work.
Yeah, well, take a look at the planet.
Right.
Um, their work is needed right now more than ever. That's why
Mm.
there's so many that's coming to the planet, and there are more coming in.
There's more.
Oh yeah, there are more coming in, and I'm different, and we get into it and more in Destination New Earth than God's in the Game. But we explained that there are different types of autism.
Right.
And it is not what humanity has come to believe as being a disorder at all. They are there. You bring up Lemuria. Lemuria is one of the. It was a time when Source chose, made the decision to experience physicality on this planet, and it's a game, right?
Right.
God's in the game, right?
Yeah.
So Source chose to be here, and it takes eons and eons for consciousness to embody in physicality. And so the Lemurians you can think of as on this planet being the first expression of Source on this planet. Okay. God, when I say source.
Right.
So the autists, those low vibrational autists, I call them the ethereal autists. Um, and I apologize. I didn't mean low vibrational. I meant low functional. They're low function and yet they're very high vibration.
Right.
And so those beings are closer to the first embodiment of the Lemurians, and what they were going through. That they were more out of their bodies. You know, the game, of course, is. And let me back up and explain the other two categories we put autistics in. We also have what we call bridge autistics, and they are playing an important role on the planet. They are those autistics that serve as a bridge between humanity and the ethereal autist.
Hmm.
And then we call them, humanity might call them Asperger's.
Okay.
And that would be the third category, and those we call catalytic autistics, and they're here, and they're serving a role whether knowingly or not, but they are absolutely working on a shift in consciousness. But they might not know it. And the really cool thing is whether they know what they're doing or don't know what they're doing the work. Um, their work is happening, right? They're doing the work whether they know it or not.
Right.
Um, but the way I look at it is, if these autists wake up and they realize who they are, lives are so much more enjoyable and exciting and vibrant and live, because that was one thing that hit me in Lyrica's book. She mentioned that, she didn't like her life before she knew who she was.
Mm.
And, she didn't want to be here. And then she woke up. And
Oh, it's
by
amazing.
waking up, she loves her life and she loves her autism.
Oh, it's amazing. Talk about the 144,000, because I've heard that. I've interviewed people about that, the light workers, the star seeds, and the autistic. The autists are part of that group.
Yeah, we do talk a little bit about it in our books. There's a couple of things. First, there's many more than 144,000 here to help the planet evolve. It's not limited to 144,000. Um, I think if anything, there's more power in that number, 144. It's a nine,
Right.
and we've been. It's been suggested that there's this convergence. And when we see that 144, you probably do. I see it all the time.
Hmm.
And when I see it, I've been told to think of it as it's the old energies are still here and they're shifting, right? And these new energies are coming to the planet every day. And as these new energies come to the planet, there has to be some type of a convergence between the new energies and the 3D energies. And that's that convergence. So when we see it, just know that the newer energies are here and they're converging with the lower vibrations. And
Is that what you call the popcorn effect?
the popcorn effect is, yeah, we talk. So you've read some, or you've heard it maybe from another interview.
Yeah,
Uh,
heard it a couple times.
Yeah, yeah, you must have, yeah, the popcorn effect is essentially as we're going through this shift, and not everybody is waking up at the same time. And there are a number of people on the planet that are here to wake up. And some people put labels on that and they call them light workers. Doesn't matter what you call them. They're just the light workers, the 144, the aliens, the star seeds. It doesn't matter what you call them. They're just individuals here, and as they wake up, will reach this, uh, I guess you call it, 100th monkey effect. Uh,
Hmm.
so the popcorn effect is as people start waking up, as I wake up, I will impact others that will wake up. And there's different types of awakenings, and we chat about that in God's in the Game. But the popcorn effect is we're going to reach that greater awakening. We want to reach that greater awakening because when there is a greater awakening, we will take more of humanity with us to, I don't want to get into these dimensions, but to this new earth.
Right. But we're
And
not going anywhere. It's a vibration.
yeah, and there's really a misconception about the new earth. It isn't something that's going to be expressed outside of us. It's inside of us. And if you want to know what the new earth is, look within. It's
Right. You
and
know, I was reading your blogs, and I know it's a channeled through Daniel speaks through in those, and it made me cry a lot, and I connect. But when what he sees, like, could you explain, like, there's so many lessons that he's here to teach humanity, and about love, and and the how he sees God, and just all these. I mean, he had me in tears, and I read almost all the the blogs and about water and how we need to bless the water, and all. Will you kind of give everyone like a summary of like the little nuggets that he's given you, because they're just tear, they're like that's really what these autistic beautiful souls know and are trying to come through to tell everybody, like, wake up and realize what you're living is not the truth.
Right, you're right, and this is a game. No,
And it's a game.
and it's a game.
Yes.
Well, you asked a big question, Ashley, because Daniel teaches us so much, and, I've worked with him on 3 books. Uh, you know, but I wasn't gonna on this last book, I was not going to, um Daniel wasn't gonna be involved in it.
Oh,
I started writing a book on, awakening, an awakening book, and I learned that the powers to be, I guess, the masters. I was told that Mother Mary wouldn't support a general awakening book because other people are doing it, and they're doing it probably a lot better than I am. But what would be supported would be an expansion of the concepts that were delivered in Destination New Earth. And Daniel woke up, he was very vocal about wanting to deliver certain messages to humanity. And one of them is about God. And the only thing I can say is it's unique and it's original. And I would just say that God needs us as much as we need God. And that would be his biggest message for, within that book. But that's very tiny.
right.
But yes, he is on our website and blogging fairly regularly. And yes, working with the water, as well as Shauna Kalicki. She's doing a lot of work with the water. Water is a resource. It is conscious. It is living. And Daniel is blogging about it on my website. And I could say a lot more about the water, but if you're interested in that, I would suggest you may want to connect with Shauna Kalicki because she has some really unique perspectives on water.
But about how the water's been like the plasma part. So talking about the live plasma. I just interviewed someone on plasma. So
Well, I'm not that familiar with speaking on that, Ashley. What I can say is that our water has been, um, there are these plasma beings, and I'd have to refer to the blog, to be honest with you. But he is working with, the autists have worked a number of years to try to clean up the water. And there's living water, and then there is water that's dead. And and when I mean dead, with all the stuff we've done to the planet, it's not alive. Uh, the most important part about his work is understanding the power we have with our water, simply blessing it will
right,
change it. And that's critical. And there are people working with water right now. There's Veda Austin, and like I mentioned, Shauna Kalicki, and there are other both people on the with the autistics. The autistics are being used to communicate to these researchers about what we can do to turn this water around, because water is like everything is conscious, right?
right.
Everything has consciousness. And think about one of the very first things uh, that was on this planet before anything. It was water. It's
Right.
closer to source than we are, right? But we think of what we've done to it.
Hmm.
But yes, if anybody, the best thing they can do is bless their water and their food. Bless their food. Realize that everything has consciousness,
Right.
and it does not stop with humanity. Everything has consciousness.
Right. I was very interested in because, we talk about the infinity sign all the time, but Daniel doesn't like that. He likes it where he doesn't agree with the infinity
Okay,
symbol.
okay. I'm not familiar with that. I don't remember that.
He believes in new beginnings and endings, new beginnings and endings.
Okay. Well, I look at the infinity sign as you can do it a couple different ways, but in that center you have the 0 point. Uh,
Right,
you have beginnings, you have endings, you have um, the birth, you have death. You have the midwife, you have the death doula. It's and it in the center, it's all connected. We're all connected. And that in that center is where we are right now at this moment,
right. The now,
right now
right.
is in the center.
How does Daniel describe time to you? Has he described that in any of the channeling?
Um, boy, I believe yes, we did talk about time and I believe it was a Destination New Earth. And I don't remember exactly what he suggests, but from my brain, I look at time as being the fourth dimension, you
Right,
know. Yeah, and but in that and we need time while we're here in the 3D in order to have the experiences that we have. Time is unique to this planet. It's not you don't see it on other planets. It is part of this game.
right.
Yeah.
And when you say the game, and because I believe that we're sitting here in a game, in a video game, and you talk about I think you call these autists the avatars in the game,
The in the game. Well, we're all in the game.
right?
Yeah.
We're all the avatars, but
Yeah. Well, essentially, we think about what you have God, right? You have source, and it, it wanted to express itself and it wanted to experience beyond what it had, what God had. Because where God was, it didn't have the polarities, And in order to, and so part of the game is, well, let me see if I can come down to a planet, okay, Earth, and let's see if we can play this game, come in as essentially a high vibrational being, the Lemurians, and fall in consciousness through, their interactions with um, Atlanteans, and forget who we are and be subject to the light and the dark. And essentially, if we ever did remember who we are, would we remember? Would
mhm,
we choose to stay with the light or go to the darkness? But it's not just about light and dark. It's, we fell, um, humanity fell in the dimensions, and with that, things got more and more and more dense in physicality. And with that physicality, we get to choose, we get to have a lot more experiences. And
right,
some of those experiences are great and fun. And that's what life is all about here on planet Earth. So the game is, if we remember, are we going to want to choose to return to the higher realms, or we want to stay in physicality?
right.
That's a very simplistic view of part of God's in the game.
When you there was one channeling where there was a like when you were talking about contrast, and you were saying something about tricksters, where Daniel was talking about like he needed to make it clear that there were tricksters in what his dimensions. where
Oh,
he
there's
and
Trickster.
ours. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yes.
yeah. I'm not sure, don't remember which reference you mean on, but there was a situation when we were doing channelings for gods in the game. The way the channelings would work is if, for example, Shauna was channeling Daniel, the information would come in. I'd get it on I would ask the questions, get it on a recording. The recording would go to Daniel's mother, who would uh, transcribe it. And but there was this one time what happened is the individual came, the being that came in claimed to be an angelic aspect of Daniel. And so before I sent the channeling to Connie, I reached out and just said, hey, we channeled yesterday, and did Daniel come in as an angelic aspect? And he said, he typed the message, no, that was not me. It was a trickster. Do not listen to the channeling. So that
Wow.
channel has never seen the light of day.
Huh.
Have been transcribed. So, and that was an awesome lesson for us, because we realized it is, when you channel, it's possible that a trickster can come in and taint the information.
Hmm.
And right away, we put protocols in place that all the questions had to get verified from Daniel. So whether the channel was communicating Syrian, Mother Mary, Daniel, what would happen is it would go to Connie, and the first question would be, I would ask, I said, who's speaking? And, and, and they would say, this is Mother Mary. And Daniel would grade that for accuracy, as well as the answers to all the questions.
Wow.
And so we would get grades about how one of his talents and skills, and it's awesome, is he has the ability to look at a book. He knows the books, and he will grade them for accuracy um, by giving it a number without reading it.
What?
Yes, it's just vibrational, and he'll know what
Wow.
what it is. So he will, so we had a system where if it was not accurate, none of the information would get used. In the book, if it was something that needed to be clarified, we would bring it back into a subsequent channel and clarify them.
Amazing. Wasn't there something where he went and told his mom that she needed to read one of your books that she had and she never read it? And she goes, oh, I guess I need to go read one of Alex's books.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yes. There was a book I had when I first met her. I gave her a book, and it was a matter of degrees, and it's a conspiracy novel. And so I gave it to Connie, and she took it home. She didn't think it was a spirituality book, so she put it on her bookshelf. And apparently Daniel said, hey, you got to read that book. And she did, and she had an awakening by reading it, and had memories of, uh, you know, another time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex, you have really expanded my my knowledge of all of this, and it's so fascinating to me to realize it kind of is it's not kind of, it is a confirmation of where we're moving toward and why they're coming like in now in bigger packs to do this ascension and to realize like this is not a joke. Like this is for real, the real deal. Like it's not just a conspiracy theory.
No, it isn't. It's life work, and many people have been here working on this path. And if you are out there and you're one of them, I thank you for what you're doing. It's really important right now. And I simply say to those that are thinking of walking a spiritual path, now's the time. We need you.
Thank you. Tell everybody how they can find you and your books and all the things.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, my name is Alex Marcoux, and you can go to my website, alexmarcoux.com, and it's spelled AlexMarcaux. And my books are available on Amazon. There's and have as well as through Ingram Spark. So if you like bookstores, they won't be in the bookstore, but go in and ask them to bring it in. That's very helpful. And yeah, so Amazon and yeah.
What book would you say start from the very first book and go from there? Or what are people drawn to?
Before I wrote these books, I did write a synchronicity book. If you're on the spiritual path and you don't want to jump into um, the nonfiction books, if you're on the path, definitely start with the Destination New Earth or Gods in the Game. Either one of them, they will. Once you read one, you'll want to read the other. Okay. Energetically, you may experience activations.
Right.
If you like fiction and you're not sold on any of this material regarding the autistics, um, The Unsuspected Heroes is an awesome book. And like I mentioned, if you're
And them all.
and well, no, these are just the spiritual books. If you're interested in life science, tapping the power of synchronicity and serendipity and miracles, that's a great book if you're interested in learning how the universe talks to you and how to navigate through breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs. My
Yes,
language. I love it.
yes.
Oh, it's been so fun, Alex. I am so grateful that you were put in my path, and it's for sure in divine timing. No question about that.
Well, thank you for your time, Ashley. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for this opportunity to come on and
Oh,
chat with you.
it's definitely shifted my everything. Like it's been a shift for me. If that's all I can say, but it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.